Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're your hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every weekday, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can find all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues affecting you and your neighbors.
Want to know what's happening in your city? Get Notify Me messages from the City of Fitchburg. Visit fitchburgwi.gov on your computer or mobile device and select the big Notify Me button on the left. Enter your email and/or phone number, whichever is best for you to get notifications. Scroll down the list and select all the topics you're interested in to receive email or text messages about. You'll be notified every time one of your topics is updated. Sign up for Notify Me, one more way to keep up with your Fitchburg government.
Good evening, everyone, to the Plan Commission meeting for May 2025. So the first thing is to call to the order of the meeting. Next is approval of the minute.
I move approval.
Second.
Any question, comments? Here none. All those in favor of approving the minutes for April 15 meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. So next, we're moving to item 3, public appearances for non-agenda item. We have one person in the audience, David Haight. He wants to speak for a non-agenda item. So, welcome, Dave. You have 3 minutes.
David Haight, 5855 Woods Edge Road. So, one of the things that I've been kind of looking across the main statutory bodies, which is Council, the Board of Public Works, because it's also 2 utility commissions and a plan commission. And none have ever adopted rules of procedure. And it's particularly troubling in the case of those 3 bodies. And in the case of the Plan Commission, there's very detailed specifications of what must be done in order for the deliberations and decisions here to be stand up to the scrutiny of law, and then also for the council to depend on those particular decisions that you make and the processes there by which you make the decisions. And I've spoken before about the fact that each of you as an individual is an officer of the city, and per Wisconsin statutes, any officer of the city may request an opinion from the city attorney with regard to anything in the city that you believe is of relevance to you. So I have here the first one that I'll be sending out to you tomorrow. All you have to do is to read it and give it to the city attorney if you decide that this is something that the city would benefit from. And in this case, it's whether or not the 24-2B5 requirement for plats, which says that in order for a plat to be approved, it must conform to all, among other things, the DNR rules regarding wetlands. And our 103 is a DNR rule regarding wetlands. The way that the city ordinance is written, it's not optional that that be verified as a precondition to approval of a plat. According to the city ordinance, that's a mandatory requirement. The way it's written, it says it shall conform to all DNR rules relating to wetlands. So what I'll be doing is I'll be sending this out to you tomorrow, and you can take a look at it. And if you want, you can forward it on to the city attorney. I'll also be sending it out to other bodies within the city. It's time that these issues get addressed. Basically, you as a body have been operating without counsel for as far back as I can tell. And it's about time that the requirements of law become apparent, written, and determined so that you know what it is that's required of you in order for you to properly carry out your duties and do your jobs, which I know is exactly why you're here. I have tremendous faith in all the city commissions in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. So next we move to item 4, agenda review. Any question, comment? No? Okay, so we move to item 5, agenda items. And the first thing in the agenda is I will open the public hearing and consideration of rezone RZ-2593-25 request by Akisha Liak, agent from Hupu Holdings LLC, to rezone property from PDD-GIP to PDD-SIP to allow for a proposed condominium multifamily residential development of property associated with 2735 Rimrock Roads. So do we have anyone to wish to speak? Yes, we have Diane Peace. No? Oh, she's in support of this, okay. And then Aisha and, okay, so Aisha, do you want to say something about now in the public hearing?
Sure. I just wanted to answer questions if we have any, but we did our submissions for the city requirements, and we've been meeting with the Plan Commission quite a bit, or the city planning team, for all of our submissions. We're happy to answer any questions that may arise today.
Okay, thank you. So we go. So I am closing the public hearing, and then we're going to a staff report.
Good evening, everyone. Of course, you've seen this project multiple times. The property is currently described on meets and bounds, and the Plan Commission and Council has approved a CSM last year. We're hoping that we can get that CSM recorded next week, so that we can combine the 2 existing lots into one. Also last year, Plan Commission approved a minor comp plan amendment to change the future land use to medium density residential. And then earlier this year, Plan Commission and Council approved the Plan Development District GIP, or General Implementation Plan zoning, for these properties. And so what is before you this evening is the Planned Development District Specific Implementation Plan and Architectural Design Review. This is the last step that this project would come before you before we move into final engineering and building permits. The proposal would develop 20 market rate condominium units, 12 townhomes and in 2 buildings, and then 8 units of single family attached in 4 buildings. All the buildings would be 2-story. The site layout, parking, and landscaping has not significantly changed from the PDD GIP approval. However, there has been some further refinement. The future roadway connection to the north is no longer being considered. Instead, this area is reserved for community space and equipped with play area and a grill. The applicant also, upon staff request, located the window wells and AC units on the plan. The reason for that was just this is a very tight site, and it's just important to know how all the different pieces and parts fit together. The lighting plan has been submitted to staff, and it was not included in your packet, but it has been submitted to staff, and it is consistent with Chapter 28. So I'm going to disregard the comments regarding the lighting plan at this time. The application materials included in your packet also included the condominium documents. I just note that the city does not enforce private condominium covenants, but staff does review these documents for any inconsistencies with ordinances, city ordinances, and for clarification. So, for example, staff suggested that the condominium association, that the documents clearly say that the condominium association is required to mow the public terrace on Rimrock and Maloney, and also responsible for snow removal on the sidewalks on Rimrock and Maloney. So staff does recommend approval of the rezone, and also staff does recommend approval of the ADR. So this is great that we got to this point.
Yeah, finally. Okay, thank you, Diana. Any question, comments?
Can I just understand that last couple pieces around mowing the terraces and snow removal? It seems like the language is recommended, but we can't require that it be in the covenant. How is this typically handled?
Don't know how it's typically handled. I can't require it. It's just a clarification that the owner, that I'm suggesting that the applicant consider, so that in the future there isn't any issues with decide who is responsible for those maintenance issues. That's all.
Okay. Can the owner speak to whether or not they intend to include those recommendations in the condominium association covenant?
Aisha?
Yes, I can comment on
okay.
that. Yep, we do intend to include that language.
Great, thank you.
We did include that language.
Okay, great, thank you. And then
Yes, just confirm, sorry, page 2, the association shall be responsible for snow removal, driveways, landscaping, and lawn care. It is on page 2 right now.
okay, Deanna, that feels generic. Do we feel like that covers kind of just then all of the property associated sufficiently?
Yeah, I think this should be okay.
Okay.
Okay, any other question? Josh, no? Okay, Shelley.
A question for Deanna. As a dog owner and lover, my eyes always just gravitate whenever I see the word dog, and I see that in the rezone, you have limited the number of, I think it's the rezone, dogs and
It is
cats.
the rezone.
Okay,
Yeah.
but that's not in the ordinances, is it?
No, it isn't. That was something that they had in their documents.
Okay.
Their rezone documents.
Okay.
So, no, I do not limit the number of dogs.
Okay.
In mine.
I would then suggest removing that limit from here, since
Where
this
is
should
that?
be kind of what we as a legal body are going to require, because they may change their minds eventually, so.
Yeah, I'm not opposed.
Okay.
I'm not opposed to that. The process here is they're creating their own special zoning district. So many of our requirements in RL or low-density residential isn't applicable in a planned development district. So I was just reflecting their choices here.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I get that.
So I'm fine with removing, that would be removing number 3A and G, 4G. It goes all the way.
4?
So number 3A, a Roman numeral 4, and then item G.
Yeah, I agree with you. I tend to like to only put in, city required things in the conditions, but also that seems to be something that they on their own might want to change in the future, and then here we've put it in the reason.
That's a good point.
I have another question. What is 22-56, 7 and 8 and 10 and 8? Because it says standard is not permitted for the PDD. What is that standard?
Yeah, I can bring those up.
Yeah, okay.
Just to follow up on Shelley's comment, I think removing H and I also would G, H, and I in that section. Those are also related to animals. And that seems like that should be handled by the covenants and not by us.
Agree.
As a snake owner also, I don't like when they don't require that.
You have other thing that beside cat.
I'm in favor of removing it just because of the verbiage of limited animal husbandry. Is that a term?
What is that?
Yeah, it's like keeping a smaller farm animals, basically.
What?
Yeah, and that
It was a very weird term as I'm reading through the packet.
That's very accepted in the industry. So yes.
that refers back to our very, very specific terms in our code.
Yeah.
Can we remove this issue?
Yeah, I think G through I can certainly go.
Okay.
Unless you're saying that I is related to city ordinances, Deanna?
Yeah, all of these are directly related to the city ordinances. So number 14 of our section of code allows for limited husbandry. this gets kind of funky because it's really written for low-density residential housing on a quarter-acre lot, right? That's all.
But we allow it per ordinance, so we don't necessarily need to come in and again, this can be handled by them if they want to negate a city policy. Yeah, okay.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, what is 22-56-7?
6 through 8 there, looks like.
6 is detached garages and carports. 7 is storage buildings, enclosures, pet houses, runs. 8 is hard surface play areas and swimming pools. Once again, this section of code is written specifically for low-density residential.
I mean, I guess maybe this is a broader question. Do we need anything in 4? To me, that feels like them specifically negating city ordinances, which is fine, but we don't necessarily need to be putting that into zoning.
We already have it in zoning.
I know, but it feels like every one of these is counter to what our zoning states. So I'm curious why we would enforce a long list of counterfactual things counterfactual to our own zoning. Let them do that with their covenant. That's fine. Mm-hmm. I think to the original point, I don't feel the need to put it in writing here.
I guess where it gets a bit uncomfortable from staff's point of view, you would be surprised how frequently the condos come with I understand where you're going. What we're trying to do is write a specific zoning ordinance reflective of what we do for other developments. And so that's why this is in here, because the applicant said that they want to have accessory occupancies pursuant to 22-56. And personally, all of these don't fit in this particular development. They don't fit.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why they're listed out here. There's just some things that's not appropriate in 2256.
So then,
in my opinion.
Based on that guidance,
Yeah.
I more get the feeling that you're saying that if it were to change owners, or that we actually want to kind of, because of the uniqueness of this development, we want to hold these criteria around it. Is that accurate?
PDD zoning is set to a higher standard than our other zoning districts. The intention is to have a higher standard and a higher level of expectation. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think I opened up this can of worms, so to speak, with the dog issues, because 22 doesn't put a limit on dogs or cats. Some of these other things Section 22 does speak to, but it only says dogs and cats in there. It doesn't. So the limit is new. So that's why that one hit me. And I can't speak to Gabriella's snake.
Well, I don't think it excludes snakes. It's just talking about a limit of the number of dogs and cats. And I think
but
when
H
you,
does.
Domesticated animal. Yeah, this is H.
yeah, but when you look at the amount of green space that's involved in this development,
Yeah.
I don't know that there's adequate room to exercise a ton of dogs. I mean, I don't have a problem with keeping the limits in there. It would probably help them with complaints from, other condo owners. And I think it's perfectly reasonable with the size of these condos and the size of the development to limit the number of animals per unit. I'm a dog lover too. I've had dogs my whole life, and cats.
I honestly think H is the only one I really have objection to. And I both agree with Carol's point, and I agree with the benefits of limiting. I don't know that we need to enshrine limitation of other domesticated animals in these units, but.
Is that like to prevent chickens?
No, that's animal husbandry. That's I.
Okay.
I can't believe we're parsing this right now. Sorry.
Talk about being in the
Yeah.
But I understand Hannah's
we can
point.
probably just leave it.
Yeah. Okay. So what we are doing, please.
I'm totally fine with eliminating G, H, and I. It does make it a little tricky when we, for example, if we got a request for chickens at the condo, they could do it.
We would technically fill it, but it would be against covenant.
Even though it's against covenants, because we don't enforce covenants. So,
Okay, so please let me know what you want to do. We keep it or we remove it?
Yeah, I would support removing H.
Removing only H?
I'm fine with getting rid of G too.
Yeah, I would
don't
agree.
know. I just don't like, I'm not gonna put a stake in it. It's fine if the commission wants it.
Okay, so we are removing H. This is what is on the table.
yeah, just
No.
make a motion.
Well, put a motion on the table with your, and then see what happens.
I move approval of rezone RZ 2593-25 with the conditions set in the memo 1 through 5, with the exception of removing number 3A for G as it relates to a limit on the number of dogs and cats.
And H.
And H.
So G and H, okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a second. All those in favor of approving the rezone with those exceptions, say aye.
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 So the motion carries. Thank you. So now.
Well, hold on, there's a second. Isn't there an ADR?
Yeah, now this is what's saying. I
Okay.
need a motion for the, yeah.
I'll move up. We've had discussion on this one, right?
Yes.
This is basically the same.
Do you, no?
Yeah, no, this is exactly the same. I
Yeah.
do not have additional comments.
Okay, okay.
I'll move approval on ADR Olive Tree Condos SIP with the
18.
18 conditions laid out by staff.
Second.
Any additional comments, question? Here none. All those in favor of approving ADR, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Diana, for coming. So next we move into another public hearing and consideration of a conditional use CU-2592-25 request by Chris Schwartz, agent for 2900C Marketplace LLC, to allow conditional use for a construction equipment storage uses on property associated with 2906 Marketplace Drive. Okay. So I open the public hearing. We have Chris Schwartz. Chris, do you want to go ahead and tell us what you're planning to do here?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. We are a traffic control agency, and we are going to be storing like drums, signs, barricades, and our trucks and some trailers on the property. The plan is to put a 6-foot fence with 75% privacy around the whole south end of the property line. And then, make sure our trucks are going to be over 6 feet, but our equipment will not be visible above the 6-foot, 75% privacy fence.
Okay, thank you. So I want to close the public hearing and we're going to staff report.
This is a conditional use permit for 2906 Marketplace Drive. The site's about 2 acres and the zoning is industrial general. The applicant is Give 'em a Break Safety, I'll refer to them as GEB, is requesting the conditional use permit. It's a little bit of a unique situation. The property is currently zoned IG, but when that IG zoning went into place in 1995. That rezone ordinance, Ordinance 95-011, specified that certain uses, including this use, have to be approved as a conditional use permit. In 2013, as some background, Plan Commission approved a conditional use permit for Supreme Structures, a general contractor's office with a similar area of storage, shop, and office, proposed trailers. The proposed use of GEB is similar, and the site, as Chris mentioned, would be materials, trucks, trailers, storage. GEB plans to fence the entire area with a 6-foot tall chain link fence. Staff notes that the proposed fencing area is larger than the current area shown. I guess I should have brought that up here quick. And staff notes that part of the proposed fenced area is included, it has some mature vegetation, likely not native high quality vegetation, but losing that vegetation would expose the storage area to the multi-use path to the south, which connects South Seminole to Badger State Trail. So staff is suggesting that some of the existing vegetation remain to the extent possible to maintain adequate screening. And also staff notes that there was a response to staff comments about the area being illuminated at night. The larger yard area shown on the map and the removal of a significant portion of existing vegetation and the potential of new exterior lighting may require architectural design review approval by Plan Commission. So staff will continue to work with the applicant. If there's going to be some major site changes out here that would, including lighting, that would trigger an architectural design review. Staff does recommend approval with this conditional use, for the conditional use with 5 conditions, and the 5th one you'll note is that major exterior changes, site changes, will require an architectural design review.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. So this is the location where Supreme Structure used to be, isn't it? And the Grace Grief Center is there.
Yes, that is
so
correct.
My question is, how does the storage of the truck, I would like to know how many trucks are, and they're going to share they're going to come in through the parking lot that they're going to share with a Grace. How that flow works?
Yeah, they would be using this driveway to come in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I will just say that a Grace is not a typical general industrial use. It's kind of an odd use for.
No, I get it. But my question is, there are people going there, and then they're going to share the parking lot, and that parking lot is kind of the driveway.
Yeah, I don't think they're planning to park trucks here. They've only got a small number of staff parking here outlined in the black. It's kind of small, but they do have, they would be leasing that small parking area, but the trucks and the storage would be in back of the building here in the area outlined in red.
And how many equipment we are talking, how many trucks we are talking, because I am concerned about, removing all the vegetation, because you can see it from the Badger, state trail when you bike there. So you're removing that type of privacy there, especially if you want to use that place for storing stuff. You know what I mean? So I am curious to see how many trucks and how many trailers we're talking about.
Maybe Chris can talk a little bit about the number of trucks and trailers.
We're going to have 4 stake trucks and 4 pickups in there.
Okay.
As far as trailers, that'll mainly be winter storage because most of the trailers and equipment's going to be from probably March through December is going to be out on the road. It's not going to be in there as far as storage in the summer. Everybody keeps talking about the vegetation, but if you go out there, I think there's invasive species in there. It's overgrown with weeds, so that's really not a like prairie type vegetation. And the reason we would like to fence the whole backyard in is to keep that, under control so we can access it. We're not going to be able to access anything back there. And then future use, if we have to put some lights in or whatever, I don't think we're going to have to put any extra lights in. That Supreme structure already has in there. The parking lot is pretty well lit. And we're going to have probably 4 pickups as far as in and out. I mean, once the truck is loaded and out, they're usually gone for most of the day and then come back at the end of the day. And then the night crew, if they're, we have some work that you have to do at night, they're probably leaving at 5, 6 p.m. and probably coming back, 6 in the morning.
Okay, thank you. For how long is going to be the conditional use?
I did not.
Why we don't include that?
I did not sunset the conditional use.
Because we usually do that, isn't it?
We have in the past and ran into some problems with that too.
But but I don't know why we do it.
You certainly can.
I asked the question because in previous conditional use we add that. It's for 5 years. It's for I don't know. This is what I asked the question though.
We certainly did for the quarry sunset at 5 years with the option to renew. We did consider a sunset on the event space over on
Anton Drive.
Anton Drive, and I think Plan Commission decided against that. So.
Okay. Any other question, comments? No.
So this is the new business in Fitchburg, right? This isn't. Are you currently located in this building, or are you moving into this building?
No, Supreme Court is out. Supreme Structure is out.
Supreme Structures is in there now, and we are taking over the lease. This will be a brand new business to Fitchburg and Wisconsin.
Great. Awesome. Welcome.
Are you planning to use the office space too?
We have some office space in the shop area that we're going to use,
Okay.
and I think the new owner is going to take over next to a Grace.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any other question, comments? Okay, all those.
I'll move approval of conditional
sorry.
use CU 259225 with the 5 conditions outlined by staff.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of the conditional use say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, thank you. So next.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Welcome to Fitchburg.
Thank you.
Next we move to item D, Certified Survey Map ZS-2591-25, request by Dan Day, agent from Fahey Glen LLC, to obtain a certified survey map approval to allow for the subdivision of one existing lot into 2 lots in the Highfield Reserve subdivision of property associated with 5380 West Fahey Glen. So, do we have David Fahey? He wishes to speak.
No, I'll just answer questions.
Okay.
Unless you want me to talk.
And Greg Hill, isn't it? Okay. He's also in support and answer questions. Do you want to go ahead and mention about this or no?
So this is, we're moving forward with another building in Irish Fields. Irish Fields, right? And so this is, we need to split the lot because the south part is sewered by the Cyene interchange and the connection is delayed a little bit. And we want to move forward with the northern part and build a 52-unit building.
Okay. So do you want to go ahead
You
and
bet.
do your report? So.
Sure thing. So Lot 270 was platted a part of Highfield Reserve in 2022. It seems like a long time already. The Plan Development District and Architectural Design Review for all of Irish Field, including all of Lot 270, was also approved in 2022. At that time, Lot 270 was planned for 46 units of multifamily building on the northern part of the lot, and then also for 24 townhomes on the southern part of the lot. As David mentioned, the CSM was proposed to subdivide Lot 270, and that allows, under our land division ordinance, the ability to move forward with construction and a building permit on Lot 1, on the proposed Lot 1. It's not possible to issue a building permit on a lot that only part of the infrastructure has been completed. And as David mentioned, the southern part of West Fahey Glen and the stormwater and water and utilities are still are not going to be completed on a timeline to move ahead with the proposed building on the north part of the building, on the north part of the lot. So that's why this is before you. Actually, Plan Commission and Council approved this CSM, and there's an expiration on a CSM of 1 year, so the CSM has not changed. It's just coming back forward for a reapproval. So a couple things need to happen to move forward with the development on Lot 1. First of all, the subdivision improvement agreement needs to be approved by Plan Commission. By Plan Commission and Council, and that is on your agenda this evening as item H. And then the architectural design review, which has been amended, needs to also be approved, and then the CSM needs to be recorded. And then we can move forward with development on the proposed Lot 1. So staff does recommend approval of the certified survey map with 15 conditions, and also approval of the ADR with a total of 17 conditions.
Okay. Any question, Gabriela?
I just want to make sure I understand this when I'm explaining it to the council. So this was approved before,
Yes.
and it expired, so we're bringing it back.
The CSM, yes.
Okay, the CSM, and then basically some of the infrastructure isn't done, so you can't issue a building permit for the part that's ready to go. So splitting it so that the place where the infrastructure is done can move forward, and the other one can be handled later when the infrastructure is complete.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
But isn't, I'm assuming condition 13 is new? That's the infiltration issue?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that was the cadence or the sequence of this is my key question on how does the addressing of the infiltration happen in terms of additional development? I feel like there's kind of a test that's going to get run this summer. So I'd like to better understand.
Well, we have, as of today, we have Public Works approval on the initial design. We need to get that PE stamped, and that will happen this week, and we will probably start moving. The rain will probably delay us to do that. Both ponds in Highfield Reserves were built to the same standards by the same people in the same specs. One worked and one did not. So we are just trying to improve that, and we will not walk away. We will improve that. Do I say that right? Privately owned, but we follow city rules.
Okay. So do you have an understanding as to why? This is just such kind of an interesting thing in my mind. So one failed basically?
I mean, I don't know the reasons behind it. I just know that water runs downhill being a farmer.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it was because of the settlement in there or not. So by putting this in, it allows the plants to it dry out. I think it's too wet, and so we will move forward, and this is the initial design. If that doesn't work, then we will be going on to the next step.
So is the water that pond was intended to capture kind of flowing into this space instead?
No, it's part of the pond. The pond is to the south of lot 271. The pond is not on lot 270, it's on the lot across the street.
Okay.
So the water, the wet basin is not allowing the plants to grow, basically.
I see.
So those one are the stonework? Okay.
So I'm not even sure, is it one of these two then,
Yeah.
David?
Yeah, it's the one right with your cursor to the west.
Okay.
So will the anticipated work kind of better funnel the water into those spaces, basically?
The water funnels there, it's just not going into the ground at the right rate.
Okay.
It's staying too wet, and because it's so wet, the plants that are supposed to be in the basin aren't establishing.
Got it.
I think it is more the plants.
Okay.
So as to that one, because as David just said, if this doesn't work, they'll go to Plan B or Plan C, whatever it is. I would suggest revising number 13. The last sentence says, the infiltration facility shall be restored once it's confirmed as functioning as designed, but the design may be not workable. So I would say is functioning according to city ordinances.
So we could just remove as designed and replace with is functioning per city ordinance.
Right.
Okay.
That'd be my suggestion.
And I guess what happens then in the fall of 2025 if you have to move to another phase? That phase has to kind of be shown to be meeting those specs? I'm wondering about the time gating on this one. Like, clearly, I want to see this operational as fast as possible, but like...
But we cannot wait for it to get operational because we need time to understand plants growing. And we would like to pull a permit tomorrow, but we cannot. And we understand that. We're waiting on the approval. So, I mean, I understand it needs... It just takes the time, and we're trying to parallel the process.
Sure.
But this says you won't get the building permits until all of this is done, so you won't get it tomorrow.
Design and install the pipe that is proposed, which we plan to do before we get the permit.
Right, which I assume is not tomorrow.
But we can't get plants to grow.
No, and they're not going to get a permit tomorrow.
Okay, can you, I am confused.
Okay.
Can you recap and say what is?
So what is happening?
Yeah.
The storm facilities are not functioning properly.
Okay.
The plants are not growing.
Okay.
The site that we're discussing this evening the water needs to go there, right? It's all part of one development. And so Public Works doesn't want to significantly hold up the building permit, but Public Works is saying that number one, they need to have an engineer design, at least some kind of fix to improve the situation with drain tile that today actually Public Works approved the engineer's design, and then they need to install the drain tile. So it's not a significant big change. It's something that can be relatively straightforward. And then over the summer, we'll see if that fix works, right? We'll see if that works
And if
over
it
the
doesn't
summer.
work?
I was going to say, what happens if it doesn't work?
And then Tracy Foss will be knocking on Dave's door.
We are not, I mean, I'm fifth generation Fitchburg.
Sure.
And I'm not going anywhere. And my word is, we will fix it.
Okay.
We have too much invested for it not to work.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we appreciate it. And, obviously my concern here is just, I want to see this built. I want to see this move forward. I don't want to see us coming back because there's water issues, streets are flooded or whatever.
I have to be back for lot 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I will be back no matter what you like me or not.
Okay.
So, no, we will be It's the process, like I said,
Yeah.
they basically built 4 ponds by the same engineers, and this one, in my understanding, is it's not abnormal to have these issues.
I mean, we appreciate this, iteration. This is just strange. This sequence is strange to me. I think I get roughly what we're trying to do, but I just want to make sure we're making, we're not like, giving an out for something that ends up failing or something like that.
No, we are not.
Okay. Appreciate that.
We understand it takes time.
Yeah.
Okay, any other comments? No? Okay, all those in favor of...
We need a motion.
Oh, motion, sorry.
I'll move approval of certified survey map CS 259125 with the 15 conditions outlined by staff, with condition 13 being amended to change the last 2 words as designed to as per city ordinances.
Per city ordinance is good.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of the certified survey map as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, so next one.
I'll move approval of ADR Irish Fields Lot 270 amendment with the 17 conditions laid out by staff.
Second.
Any questions, comments?
There's this one also, with an update to number 7, having as designed also changed to per city ordinance.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor of the ADR as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay.
Thanks for your collaboration on this.
Yeah,
We appreciate it.
We'll see you. Okay, so next we are moving to item F, is an ordinance. Ordinance 2025-0-07, amending Chapter 30 to 67, private well prohibited, and Chapter 40-90, exclusive agricultural land waiver. Okay, so we don't have anyone on the chamber to talk about this, so we are moving to a staff report.
This item was postponed last month to this meeting by Plan Commission, and that was due to the fact that the Ag and Rural Affairs Committee also postponed. One of the requests that I received was that we provided that staff would provide a little bit of extra information about the extent of properties that could be impacted by this ordinance, and so that's what we have before you. So what is before you is that agricultural properties within 200 feet of a city water main would have to connect to the city water system. So houses would have to connect if the properties are within the 200 feet. So what I'm showing on our map is all of the city's water mains, and then properties within 200 feet of a water main that are zoned agricultural. So the deeper kind of solid green, grass green, is small lot agriculture. The lighter green is agricultural transitional zoning, and then the dotted parcels are exclusive agriculture. So what Public Works and I did was create that map and then provide you all with a list of those individual property owners' address, if there was an address on the parcel, and then the next column is whether or not there actually is a residential home on that parcel, and then finally whether or not there is a home within 150 feet. So the ordinance as proposed is designed to say, for those agricultural properties, those farms, where the house is more than 150 feet from the right-of-way, that means the house is set way back from the road, they would be able to drill a new well if their well failed. And they would not be required to connect to city water for their human consumption. Of course, on agricultural property, as we already know, when we did just lost the word, the property up on Goodland Park Road.
The Groundswell Conservancy.
Yeah. So for agricultural uses on land, you can install a new well. That's not a problem under our current ordinance. And that's because the city isn't interested in providing human consumption water for crops or for animals, right? It doesn't make good sense for our resources. But what Ag and Rural has been promoting for the last year was, what about those farms and those farmhouses that are set way back from the road, for example, like the Stonemans, that it would just be very, very costly to connect onto city water if their well failed. So I apologize if that didn't totally make a whole bunch of sense. What the chart shows in your packet is that really there's only 2 properties that would be not where the house is within that 150 feet, and so therefore would have to connect to the city main for human consumption. They still could drill a new well for watering livestock or for watering agricultural products, but under the proposed ordinances before you, if the Joneses farm well failed and they needed to do a new well, they would be forced to connect to the city water main for their human consumption.
Okay, I have a question because we have 200 feet and 150 feet. So can you explain the two numbers?
Yep. So the 200 feet is any properties under our current ordinances, way before we even started these discussions.
Okay.
If you're within 200 foot of a water main and your well fails, you need to connect into the city system.
Okay.
That's where the 200 foot comes from.
And the 150?
And the 150 is a cutoff point to say the houses that are very, very far, the farmhouses, very far away from the right-of-way. It would be very expensive to connect into the city water. If you're more than 150 feet on your farm, your well fails, and you can still use your well water for human consumption.
Okay, but it had to be agricultural. It had to be an agricultural.
You have to be an agricultural zone. Yes.
Okay, but it's my understanding that yesterday,
the
Ag and Rural Affairs removed the feet. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Why? What is your recommendation?
Okay. So I'm just going to bring up the ordinance here. This is the ordinance as written. And I think what it might be helpful, I'm going to reiterate some things that Tracy Foss in Public Works said last night to Ag and Rural. So the purpose of the 150 feet is to just address those situations where the house is very, very far from the right-of-way, and that it makes sense that it's not reasonable to have them connect. But what it also recognizes is if you're zoned rural residential, if you're zoned RL, if you're zoned RD, whether you're 150 feet away or from the right-of-way or not, you have to connect, right? And if your well fails. So from the standpoint of Public Works, the 150 feet is just a reasonable amount. It's fair all the different users along a water main, right? So that just because my house is zoned rural residential, I have to connect anyways, right? So that's one thing that I wanted to say in terms of from Public Works standpoint, there's an element of fairness. If you're within 200 foot of a municipal water main, your property is, and your well water fails, you have to connect under our current code. And number two, Public Works is very concerned about just putting more and more wells out. Having more wells is always a potential threat to the overall drinking water system in Fitchburg. Normally a well is just fine, but wells that aren't adequately maintained or abandoned can become a problem to all of our drinking water systems here in Fitchburg. So that's kind of the standpoint of Public Works, concerned about the element of fairness, concerned about limiting the numbers of new wells in the city. Last night, what happened at Egan Rural was that they did amend the ordinance, and specifically they amended the ordinance and recommended approval with the removal of the entire item, section number 3 here. So they supported the ordinance with the removal of the 150-foot distance requirement. And from their standpoint, this is all about supporting agriculture in any reasonable way in Fitchburg. That agriculture is a very important part of who and what we are in Fitchburg, and even this 150-foot is undue burden on a handful of potential farms and property owners. I will say that Public Works passed the ordinance as is, without any amendments. The Resource Conservation Committee also passed the ordinance without any amendments.
So the ordinance that is in front of us is the original.
Yeah, you're looking at the original. I haven't made any changes. This is just from your packet. I'm just telling you
what happened
in Egan Rural. They amended to remove number 3.
But what happened in the future if we added more of these agricultural parcels? They start building some,
Agri-hoods or something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So how in the future could affect that? People are going to say, okay, there is no any requirement to how many feet away I have to be. So we can see an increase of private wells. So how do we avoid that?
So in that agri-hood concept that we've been working with in the Greenfield neighborhood, the idea would be to cluster the residential houses. They would be served on city water. And then any agricultural crops or animals would be served off of private wells, is the idea.
Okay, Gabriela, yeah. And then who has Shelley? One.
Well, I just had a question. So Jones is Mark Jones, who's the chair of Ag and Rural.
Yeah.
I saw that he abstained from the votes, but did he abstain from the conversation?
No.
No, he did not abstain from the.
Okay, so that's a problem.
Yeah.
Because we've spent a long time talking about this, and the person that was driving a lot of the conversation is the person that is in the question, and that seems like a conflict of. When you abstain for a vote, you're actually supposed to abstain from the conversation at large, and if that's not happening in commissions, we need to clarify that with everybody in commissions, that if you're abstaining for a conflict of interest, you cannot participate at all, and you should physically remove yourself from the dais or the table so that you're not accidentally part of the conversation or driving it through other means. So that's a huge issue in my mind.
But couldn't he testify as a private person?
Absolutely.
Yes, but he didn't
Okay,
do
so
that.
he would leave the table and go sit in the audience and say the same thing?
Yeah. Yeah, basically, like you
I
have
mean,
a
I
3-minute
understand what you're saying,
testimony.
but practical effect, he would still be able to say what he wanted to
Did
say.
he do that?
absolutely.
Did he do that yesterday?
Yeah, we all just stayed, he did not step away from the table, but he did stay in the room and he did stay in the conversation.
Based on the other commissions that have passed this and that coming to light, I would recommend that we move this as it's written right now. I would not recommend striking 3. I think that this is making an accommodation for those. I think it makes sense for all of our drinking water that if you're that close to a main, you should be connecting to the main. And so I don't see a need to strike number 3 from this.
And I disagree. If I was not at AG, but I would have voted for striking it, and I just want to speak to a few things. So when you said what Public Works' position is, and I accept it, it's very valid, fairness with rural residential. The point is, and we're only talking about replacement wells, so there's already a well on that property, so there'd be a replacement well, and even if they have to connect to the main, they are still drilling a well, because they have to have a well for their livestock and their cropland. So you're not reducing drilling new wells. You're just reducing drilling the purpose of the well.
But a failure criteria for livestock and land is going to be different than a failure criteria for human consumption. So you could be reducing the number of wells. If you have a certain level of contamination, as I understand it, you would still potentially be able to use that well for agricultural uses. You would just not be able to use it for human consumption.
Okay.
So I do think there is a potential for this to reduce some wells.
Okay, and let's remember, the whole universe we're talking about is a max of 6 properties. So it's a max of 6 properties. If you didn't have the 150 feet, I think the fairness with rural residential is that was already a decision made whenever the compulsory connection waiver was put into the ordinances. So right now we have said, if you are ag, as a policy matter, we're going to allow you to keep your well. We didn't say that for rural residential, but we said it for ag. So it seems to me consistent that it would be a consistent grandfathering to let ag just replace a broken well. So it would have to be a well that's already there. It's a replacement, so it wouldn't be in a new agri-hoods or anything. And I just don't see how the potential of 6 wells is going to be a threat to the municipal water system.
But we're talking about the go forward at this point.
The pardon?
We're talking about the go forward. I'm not necessarily as worried about the current state of what would qualify for this. I'm worried about how we are limiting ourselves to use zoning, and like the mayor is recommending, that if we move towards a hybrid structure where we have certain elements that are still maintained as zoned as agriculture, which as I understand it, Ag and Rural Affairs is a huge mission for, I don't necessarily want that to have the ability that we can maintain that zoning, they can build a house right next to the road, and then they get to not have to do this. That's my worry here, is that we are setting ourselves up to say, if it's zoned as agriculture, there has to be an assumption that regardless of where they build their house, they can drill a well however they want.
But if it's new zoned agriculture, it wouldn't be a replacement well. It'd be a new well. And this is only referring to replacement wells.
Mm-hmm.
So we're telling them the well you have now, we're going to let you keep it no matter how close you are. If it fails, we're maybe going to, I think if it fails, the grandfathering should extend to a replacement well. So I don't know. I will vote against approval of the resolution as it's written.
I have a question so I'm trying to understand the well thing. So the well fails. This is a well that's used for agriculture and for human consumption. So say the well fails, they have to dig a new one for agriculture because we don't want city water being used for agriculture, because these are all active farms, right? These are all farms that are operating as farms. So they have to drill a new well for agriculture regardless, as Shelley said. but then we're basically allowing them to also use it for human consumption again. Basically,
If we
replacing the well, use it for human consumption.
If we remove the
Yes.
150.
Yeah. This
So it's
is
not
only for
adding-
replacement. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not adding an additional well just for human consumption. It's adding it for agriculture, and then the human consumption's like the secondary use of it. Is that true? Like, these are all active farms that are using these wells for
Yeah,
agricultural
that
water.
would be the intention here, that these are active farms.
But this property on 2244 South Sain, that one is this one is a farm there?
That's, yeah, they have agricultural, I mean,
really?
they mostly do crop, but I don't think he raises cattle at this point, but he certainly could.
But the thing is, if my understanding, so I want to understand, is that my well failed. I need to replace it for my agricultural activity. But also I am very close to the water
right
main. So it means that I can use the replacement of my private well for my agricultural activity, but then for my consumption, water consumption, I need to connect to the water main.
Yeah, you are correct.
So there's two costs.
Yeah.
So there's an
There are two
additional,
costs to them.
so Ag and Rural feels it's an undue burden.
So, okay,
on
they don't want to, or they want to use the replacement well also for water.
human
Human
consumption.
consumption, okay.
But so I'm trying to figure out, under section 2 of the ordinance, could theoretically a farm not be using their well water, but use it for human consumption, and then would drill it and only use it for human consumption because they're no longer, do you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing that says that it has to be used primarily for agriculture.
But it
And that
had to
human
be
consumption
sown
is a
agriculture.
secondary use.
Yeah, I mean, there's no
But-
way for us to regulate that,
Yeah.
really.
I'm just trying to figure out. Anyway,
yeah.
I think this is exactly the reason why you recuse yourself from conversations when you have because that may be absolutely true. That what Shelley said and what the Ag and Rural Affairs, that may be absolutely the right call. But when one of the people part of the conversation is the one that is subject to the ordinance and is benefiting from the change, or not, I guess not benefiting, but directly subject to the change. I won't say benefiting because I won't put that. That's why you don't be part of the conversations, because it feels like it's a personal agenda that's coming through in that public
I get
conversation.
that. I will say, I wasn't at the meeting, but I did listen to the broadcast, the meeting today, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say that the main speaker was not Mark Jones. I think Amy seemed to be.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Spoke more and more passionately.
And I will
But
say
point well taken.
And I will say, from the committee's perspective in general, they don't see this as impacting just these properties, right? They see, with our discussions with the development of Greenfield, with the neighborhood plan of South Stoner, they see that more water lines are coming farther out, and this could impact them too in the future.
So sorry, walk me through that then, because now we just went from talking about the fact that this is only replacement wells. So then suddenly, if we get water mains that are closer to existing agricultural wells, that suddenly would move more properties into qualifying to be grandfathered.
If a water line is extended down Kane Road, you're going to hit more. The map's going to show more properties that are zoned agriculture that this could impact. Yes.
So if we open the Greenfield, when the Greenfield, if the Greenfield is neighborhood plan is approved, we are going to open more land, so there are going to be more property subject to this.
Yes, there certainly
could. Yeah, so the universe of 6 is as of today. That universe could grow in the future, but that is one of those reasons of why we don't, or I don't want to put words in Shelley's mouth, but I agree with where you're going, that the undue burden to a farm owner, because the city has expanded near where my farm is. I am already agriculture, and now the city is putting in water lines that have nothing. I don't need it. I don't want it, and now my well fails. because the city's expanded near my house. I totally agree that Mark should have recused himself from conversation, and I've been sitting here going back and forth thinking, while that should have happened and that would be the right thing to do, at the end of the day, I still agree with what the Ag and Rural agreed to, and that would be to remove that as an additional burden, and especially hearing that he wasn't the main driver of the conversation. I think I'd have a little bit different tone if that wasn't the case, but if that's what you're saying, I didn't obviously listen to the recording from last night, but I'd hate to say what my gut is telling me is the right thing to do regardless of how we came to this point, and that would be do we want to have an additional burden on a very small section of homeowners, landowners in the city that we, have otherwise grown in and around and through. I do have some concern with that, I guess. So I would be in support of what Shelley's also proposing, which is following what Ag and Rural had agreed to with removing of that.
So can I just, I think that's very valid. In thinking about how we move forward with zoning as a city, and in thinking about some of these hybrid concepts, is the assumption that those will be zoned in a way that would make them not qualify for something like this? Because I guess the only criteria that I don't really care for is if we cut these into smaller and smaller pieces and they become some type of hybrid system and they have an agricultural tag to them, and then suddenly we're allowing a bunch of people this exclusion.
Well, no. First of all, in AX and AT, the minimum lot size is 35 acres. And we work off that base farm system. It's very difficult to, and would be against the intention of our current zoning ordinance to start breaking up these large parcels of land. That's not.
And still having them be considered agricultural.
Yes.
So then that would.
Yeah.
I think the agricultural zoning is a required component of this grandfathering of these limitations.
Yes, definitely. Okay. Definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
But you mentioned two of them. What about small lot agriculture?
Yeah, we did include that there. That is a smaller, but there's not a house on small lot. You can't build a house on small lot.
How small is it?
5 acres is the smallest.
Yeah, it could be a house.
You can't build a house on small lot. It's against the zoning.
Oh, okay. Okay. So we have all these other,
You have
safeguards.
It's hard.
You know what I mean?
It's hard to build new stuff outside of Fitchburg's urban service area, and you cannot build a house on small lot ag. There is no residential use.
But there are houses on small lot agriculture already. So we probably, that doesn't have to be there at all, right? Because this part of the ordinance is only about single family home.
Yes, it probably doesn't. You're right. It's a good catch.
Can we remove it?
You certainly could. Mm-hmm.
But transitional agriculture and exclusive agriculture both could have single family residences.
They certainly can. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Is there like a threshold that would be acceptable? Like 100? I can't. Sorry, I'm not good at visualizing, so I don't know how far 150 feet is. I can't. I can't figure out if that's very.
So let me see.
It would be helpful for me to figure out what that actually looks like.
Yep, we can do that.
100 feet.
So I'm going to go. Here's the Stoneman's farm.
45 meters. Do you think in meters?
Do we think
that
in
actually
meters?
is helpful.
So Stoneman's house is right here.
Okay.
And
that one is Sayin, isn't it?
Yep, this is Sayin, and this is the Stoneman farm.
Okay.
Yeah. And they are about 440 some feet away.
They're far away.
They are far away. And most are, right?
They don't qualify.
Yeah, most are.
150 feet is pretty close to the road.
Yeah.
I guess I don't have a problem grandfathering in these individual properties. Obviously, there's only two at stake, but
you're thinking the future.
Exactly. I don't know what the implications are down the road, and that's the problem with creating an ordinance based on a small case study. Is would 100 feet be a better threshold? It seems like there should be some threshold, but maybe I don't.
Well, except 150 feet. The two are only for the 150 feet, which is the proposal. If you didn't allow replacement as a grandfather, then it's 6 homes, not 2. Because the residential home section, that's those that are within 200 feet. So those 6, I mean, the compromise 150 feet would only affect 2 homes. But if the current rule would affect 6 homes, and so you're going to, it just seems so complicated. For 2 homes, you're going to put this kind of compromise in that, I don't know.
No, but what Gabriel is saying is we are not looking at the short term, we are looking at the future. It's more land is open and more, more houses, so they're going to be, more parcels are going to be closer to the water main. That's it.
Mm-hmm. But I think but again, it's a replacement well. Mm-hmm. So it's not new wells that are, not new properties that are developed in a well. This is just a replacement for what this city has already decided the policy should be to grandfather. I guess that's kind of how I see it.
Okay, what is on the table?
I'll move approval of this ordinance with, under section 2, striking number 3, and on number 4, striking AS small lot agricultural.
Second.
So which one? Okay, wait.
So this is ordinance
I'll bring it back up here.
25-007.
So we would, the motion on the table would strike small lot egg, and then also strike number 3.
And sorry, can I just reconfirm? RCC and who else?
Public Works.
Public Works moved this forward without any strike. And
They did.
Ag and Rural Affairs asked to strike 3. That's what the chain has said so far.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so who seconded this?
Shelley did.
No, Shelley did.
Carol made the motion, Shelley seconded.
Okay, I'm going to do roll call.
Yeah, I just don't, I'm going to be honest though, I just don't know. I don't have any problem with it as it exists right now. Having those 2 properties be included seems fine. But I just don't know what the implications are long term, and that's the problem that I have with it, is that having no threshold, I don't know if that's the right thing to do.
It may not be, and guess what? We can amend it then. I mean, we're trying to look so far into the future, and we don't know, right? That's why
but then you would have to,
ordinances can be created and amended.
Those wells are already there.
Can we amend it during the comp plan?
All right. I'm fine with it.
Not during comp plan, but during the zoning code rewrite. I mean,
Well, we can do that during zoning code.
I don't have a problem with this as is. I don't know, and maybe it's fine long term, but that's fine. It's fine.
So, okay, so all those in favor,
or did you want?
or the ordinance 2025-0-7 is striking number 3 and removing for 4 the AS small lot agriculture. Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, because you need to explain this in council.
Yeah, I will.
I'll get it.
Okay, thank you. So next we are on G, Resolution R-91-25, releasing temporary limited easement on Lot 2 of CSM 8023, located at 2747 South Seminole Highway. Okay. What is this?
So this was just this was a temporary easement used in the reconstruction of Lacey Road and also the roundabout. It was temporary, so it's no longer needed, and Plan Commission needs to approve releasing that temporary easement. Of course, staff recommends approval.
Okay.
I move for approval of Resolution R-91-25.
Second.
All those in favor of the resolution say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next one, H. This is Resolution R-92-25 approving first supplement and fourth amendment to the agreement for subdivision improvement in the plat of Highfield Reserve.
Okay, so this relates back to the Irish Fields CSM and the ADR that you've already approved this evening. And with the change in creating the two new lots, and that's going to change our phasing plan and change the subdivision improvement agreement. So this is just making an amendment to that subdivision improvement agreement and also creating a supplement that states some of the requirements with breaking apart that lot 270. So staff does approve of it.
Okay, any question, comment?
I'll move approval of Resolution R92-25.
Second.
Any additional comments, question? Here none. All those in favor of Resolution R-92-25?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Okay, so we are, item I is Plan Commission election. So election for Plan Commission Vice Chair as well as Plan Commission representative to the Ag and Rural Affairs Committee and the Transportation and Transit Commission. So the question is, do we have a nomination? Currently, Stephen is the Vice Chair. I don't know, Stephen, do you want to continue to be the Vice Chair? You want to?
Yeah, I would love to.
Okay. Any other person want to be apply to be Vice Chair of the committee? Okay, so here none, we need move Stephen.
I'll nominate Stephen as Vice Chair of the Plan Commission.
Second.
Any question, comments, or all those in favor of approving Stephen as a Vice Chair of the Commission say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Congratulations. So next, we need to look for a Commission representative to the Ag and Rural Affairs Committee. I am going to ask a question, Shelley. Do you want to continue?
Yes, I would.
Yeah, okay.
I'll nominate Shelley.
Second.
All those in favor that Shelley continues to be our rep and the Ag and Rural Affairs Committee say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carried. Congratulations. So next one is we need a rep for the TTC Commission. So
I am happy to serve. I enjoy that commission. If somebody is eager to serve, I am willing to let somebody. Yeah. I don't think anyone else wants to do it.
I nominate Gabriella to serve on TTC.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of approving Gabriela to be our rep in TTC, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Congratulations. Okay. Thank you for the people that they volunteered to be in the commission. So next we go to report from the department. So first is a neighborhood plans update.
Yes, so the neighborhood plan drafts are posted and ready for your review. All the committees and commissions review also. We have we've wrapped up our steering committee with South Stoner. The steering committee for the South Stoner neighborhood plan did recommend approval of the plan. Next Thursday, May 29th at 5 p.m. will be our final Greenfield Neighborhood Plan Steering Committee. It will be in this room. We will take public comment, and anyone is welcome to join us for that meeting. That would be the final steering committee then for Greenfield. Our plan is for the commission here is to have a formal presentation of both draft plans at our June meeting. We would also have a formal public hearing at that meeting. We would not be asking Plan Commission to do any vote or anything. We're going to take a period of about a month for public comments, comments from all of our committees and commissions. So What we would be looking for you all next month would be staff and the consultants will bring a formal presentation of both neighborhood plans, and then we'll also hold our first public hearing as our process of adoption.
Last one. First and last one.
First one and last ones. Okay, so that's kind of the general plan going forward. And then good news is we have our planning intern starting next Tuesday. She is going to help us initially with working through some of our agricultural zoning update for the state. We have to get recertification of our exclusive agricultural zoning so that we can stay in compliance with our agricultural preservation tax credits. So Miranda, our new intern, will be helping us through that process, hopefully bringing that to you all very soon with that update with some minor changes. I'm also planning on bringing some changes to the floodplain ordinance to you all next month. That is also upon state request. Dane County has had some changes in the overall floodplain, not so much in Fitchburg, but with those changes, the state is requiring some updates to our floodplain zoning ordinance. So planning to bring that to you all also next month.
Plan and the zoning code. Do you have any update on that?
No. We're going to try to get everything finished up with the neighborhood plans, and then hopefully we'll get started right away on the comp plan and zoning RFP.
Okay. The minor zoning changes, do you have any idea when we're going to run it through?
Yeah, I think, I'm still planning on maybe like in August. We will, depending on the workload. I'm kind of flying solo right now on all of our permits and things without Zach, and so hopefully we can get someone up and running fairly soon in Zach's position.
And are you starting the process?
Yes,
okay.
The position is open.
Okay.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll have a lot of good applicants. Really excited. Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other questions, comments about planning department? No? Okay. So any update from the Ag and Rural Affairs Committee besides the resolution that we approved?
Yeah.
I wasn't there, so
we did just review potential CSM, rural residential development criteria development that over on Burn Road for Copus. I think the committee saw that there was a few problems with that, so we'll still be working with Mark and Carrie Copus on the potential of building a new house on their property. The committee is also hoping to have some more detailed discussions regarding new farm residences, but we postponed that till a later date.
What do you mean farm residences?
Yeah, so when we have a new, there's some in our zoning code. I guess I need to talk with my code. This kind of ties into, there's some questions about, so this is in exclusive agriculture. There's some questions about what this particular clause means. So it's under the permitted uses, exclusive agriculture, new farm residence that's the only residence on the farm occupied by an individual who earns 50% of his or her gross income. Well, there's a couple issues with this. We need some more clarification on what exactly is a farm and what exactly is the farm residence. So Ag and Rural wants to work through that. And then there's a big issue here with this 50% of his or her gross income. At the staff level, we're not in a position to collect people's tax statements to maintain that, to enforce that. It's not really an enforceable clause. So the committee is just very interested in taking a look what this really means and what the intention here is, and how it fits in with state code and also Dane County's code.
But a farm, we know what is a farm. I don't know what do we need to reinvent the code. Or there is any other, what I mean?
Yeah.
And a farm resident, we know what it is, so I don't know why we need to. I agree, yes, with the 50%, maybe that clause, maybe it was put there way back for some reason, but.
We had something come before us where we talked about that not that long ago, and I'm trying to remember which application it was, and I think we talked about it at the time. It was kind of like our well conversation.
There's
at some point somebody needs to
Yeah.
look at this and make it clear.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Anything
all I
else?
have.
That's it? Okay. What about TTC?
TTC, we had a long discussion about a north-south bus rapid transit. Mike Chavala from Madison Metro Transit came. They're at the preliminary design phase of it, 30% design, and that route goes all the way from the north all the way down to into Fitchburg. And so the termination point would be basically at the Triverton Pike and McKee, which is right near the Walgreens, kind of that street right over from Walgreens. That would be the termination point and where the electric charging would be. And then there are several stations going up. One would be, anyway, I can send you the link to the website that shows it. We had a public meeting last week here in City Hall, one of many public hearings about the entire north-south route, not just the Fitchburg section of it, although obviously that's most of interest to us. I will also send, there's a survey, and the survey will take you station by station through it, and you can comment on it. I do think it's pretty interesting. Generally speaking, they're going to be center running, so they'll be in the center and they're bigger stations. There'll be some changes, like for example, the name is gonna, right by the Pines, what is that road there?
Traceway?
Not Traceway,
Traceway? No, Post?
High Ridge?
High Ridge, yeah.
Oh.
There's gonna be a station right there, and so they're gonna have to add a light to prevent some of the traffic issues that will be at there. That'll be an unusual thing, restrict left turn access, for example. But there are items like that associated with the design that are relevant. One of the benefits of having the electric charging will be at that termination point, along with bathrooms for the Metro Transit drivers. So as soon as we can get that installed, which could be before the bus rapid transit is completed, it'll make it easier for us to have potentially more frequent bus routes within Fitchburg, because you can charge the buses at the end. One of the reasons we have issues right now with Fitchburg is that because they're already using the electric buses, they run out of battery. And so, because there's nowhere to charge them around here. As just a side note.
I thought there was looking into bringing it down all the way to Lacey and more like City Hall.
That was an early discussion that had been ruled out a while back from Metro Transit because of cost.
The grant covered up to Monkey.
Yeah, I think it's primarily cost.
Then if we want to extend, we can do it, but the city had to participate like 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now we are participating only 20% of the cost.
Yes.
I'm curious on that, if there's conversation on that Triverton Pike turn, just because I feel like the speed and angle with which people come off Fish Hatch when there's already cars turning into that street there into Walgreens, if we have all that added, is there a decent amount of redesign that's expected to go into that then?
Yeah, I think they'll cross that bridge when they get to it. It's certainly being paid attention to.
Okay.
It's definitely the site that makes the most sense.
Yeah, I think
if you're going to terminate in that area, there's really no other place that it makes sense to put it.
Is the idea that they would kind of take that right in between like Rolling Pin and Summit and come in through that way?
Oh yeah, on Brendan.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And
yeah, they would turn onto
necessarily,
Brendan, go down Brendan, and then turn onto Triverton Pike, stop there, and then they would turn onto Fish Hatchery.
And take a right
turn
onto
onto McKee, and then use the light to turn back onto Fish Hatchery.
That's much better. Okay.
Yeah, there is also the next stop is going to be, if you scroll up to Cahill, Maine, the next stop is like basically in the middle of Cahill, Maine. Yeah, where Deanna's putting, or it's a little further down, I think, but it's actually going to be on the side because there's not a big enough road to put a center running station there. But they made the decision to put the station there, even though obviously it would be more streamlined, just keep it on Fish Hatchery, but most of the housing is there. So it doesn't really make sense to have people walk all the way down to Fish Hatchery when all they're walking past is residential, and on the other side is the Fish Hatchery and the DNR land. So they put the bus up there because of the residents, even though it maybe takes a little bit of time, but it's not enough time that there's a concern that it'll delay things. So it's some of an unusual thing for the bus rapid transit, but it just makes more sense. But I do think it's relevant to this commission because as we expand bus transit, it obviously makes sense to continue to developing more densely and bringing more residents where the bus transit is. We're continuing to bring more residents. We can only get so many people on the roads. The traffic is already bad. And how many more cars are we going to have on the road if we don't, in my opinion, don't invest in that bus rapid transit. But when we have that will open up potential. I mean, we're already talking about Bowman Plaza, bringing in the tallest building in the city on that corridor. And I think as some of that older housing stock will eventually have to be redeveloped, hopefully with not displacing the residents, but that will eventually have to be redeveloped and we can create more density there and the bus rapid transit and the public transit will be there to allow for that additional density in that region. So I feel like it's very relevant to Plan Commission, which is why talking about it a little more. But anyway, the presentation kind of dug into some things I think it'd be of interest. So I can send the link to that conversation and then also the link to the website and to the survey in case you want to check it out. And then we also had a transit plan update. So Ross, our transportation engineer, is updating our transit plan, and he's going to include some items about the committee has been discussing about how you might extend bus routes in the city and how it could work. And he's putting those specific possible extensions and changes and reroutes into the transit plan as options so that there's actual city documentation of what's been talked about, so that those can then be vetted for budget and considered more fully in the future. So those include extending Route B, which is like basically to that termination point that will be for the bus rapid transit. So right now it ends at Cahill, Maine, but it could come all the way down to Treverton, just that current bus route as is. So extending the Route B to there, extending Route 65 to that same point to kind of create a bit of a transfer point. Our expansion, like making the 65 a fixed line, which means it's not just commuter hours and not just weekdays, but weekends and all hours. And having that same thing happen to the 75. The 75 passes that Treverton intersection, not directly, but you could make that kind of like a mini transfer point where you could get from one end of the city all the way to the other with a transfer at that one location. And then there was also discussion about a 65 reroute to bring the bus a little closer to, again, more density of housing, each of which would have its own implications in terms of cost and schedule. And sometimes things can't be done just because literally the Madison Metro can't make the buses go that far, that fast. So, but anyway, it's just in the plan so that we can have more full discussion and have it be sitting there in an actual way versus just theoretical conversation.
Are they looking at the northwest part of Fitchburg? The bus service has been dramatically reduced. Even though I'm not an alder anymore, people call me and complain about stuff still. And there's been a severe limitation of the service in like Belmar Hills and Jamestown, and those are very dense apartment complexes with too many cars in the parking lots. So a lot of people now, where they could get somewhere 20 minutes, it takes like 2 hours to get there because of all of these changes due to the bus rapid transit. So it's backfiring in some.
Oh, absolutely.
In some areas, big time.
I think
it's putting a huge burden. I've talked to people who've had to change their dentist. They've had to go to they can't get to the bank. They can't go places anymore.
Yeah, I think.
So they're going to have to figure out, just not look at the shiny new stuff. They're going to have to make sure they're not breaking stuff when they're doing this.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think the redesign has had really negative consequences for certain neighborhoods. And I think they know that. I think that's like well aware. I don't know we did when we did the approval way back when with the redesign, we actually diverted that, I think it's Route D, further into the neighborhood because it was only going to go down Allied, and we diverted it into, I think, down Genowan, or if I'm remembering the names correctly, to bring it a little closer to the housing. But yes, it's farther away. And I don't know, certainly if someone brings the issue, we could talk to Metro, but because that route is we only control the section that it goes through Fitchburg, and that route's mostly running through Madison. We just have very little control aside from that diversion that we created into the neighborhood, which also increased the cost significantly because once it diverted into Fitchburg, because Allied Drive is pretty much all Madison. So once it was into Fitchburg, we had to cover those hours on the route, but we thought that was important. But that was the most that they could do with the overall picture. But yes, I think the Madison Metro knows that the redesign had negative consequences on a lot of cities. But I think they should reach out, and we can see if, certainly bring it up see if there's any issues to address.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else?
At all. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other announcement? Nope. Okay, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of adjourning the meeting at 8:10, say aye.
Aye.
Any motion? The motion carried. Oh, my Lord. Sorry.